welcome to my channel. Um, it's good to be making long form content. My TikTok videos are already like 6 minutes long anyways. It's just good to get out of the echo chambers of social media and that short form content that doesn't really integrate, it doesn't have any depth. It's just like bam, bam, bam. And it kind of leaves us unsettled instead of really like processing information, right? But without further ado, that is the purpose of the story I want to tell today. It's really to ground our nervous systems and really help us connect. And yeah, it's good to go through the storyline of things. I guess I'll just jump right in. So many things have happened throughout history, but they all kind of connect to when time was broken. Because I'll have to do a whole nother video on this later, but the split of creation into time and space is what creates the universe, what creates the matrix, what creates experience. And because time was broken, we've been stuck in this loop, which is the magnetic field, and it just keeps pulling us back to center. So during eclipses, the solar consciousness, the sun, is blocked, and we have a great opportunity to talk to the darkness. And the darkness is like a protective mother, right? It's the bringer of light, and it gives us a choice, but a choice for reality, but we choose love every time. And this is not the Buddha love, this is the human love, the gravitational love that pulls us in. It's the love that fuels storylines and generates intensity, and intensity is what creates or fuels creation, right? So the human love is sacrifice, it's identity, it's devotion, it's art, it's jealousy, it's Persephone being bound to the underworld and Orpheus not being able to let her go. He literally turns back around. That is like kind of what we've been doing. Human love creates attachment because when it leaves, something in us collapses. But when we collapse, that's actually the way back to the one. Detached love sets things free. It doesn't need a storyline. And since everyone is in apocalyptic mode, I wanted to restore the true meaning of apocalypse, which is Greek for unveiling. So it is disclosure of something unconscious becoming conscious. Darkness is revelation, right? Like I said, darkness is the bringer of light. So to kind of clear some of the distortions and the rampant narratives going on, like social media and elsewhere, just throughout history, I've been working with Hermes in the astral to kind of piece some stuff together. And Hermes is the mover between worlds. So this is a great guide to connect to if you want to practice that movement between all realities. But basically in Greek mythology, the underworld was not distant, it was not far away, it was right beneath their feet. And they said you could fall into it at any moment of sadness or despair or anger or whatnot. So in the underworld, there are two rivers. One is Lethe and one is Mnemosyne. Lethe is forgetfulness, oblivion, and Mnemosyne is memory. So think of like lethargic. The word lethargic means to become disconnected from purpose, identity, vitality, not because we're lazy, but because something has been forgotten. So when we're disconnected from meaning, when we're living off borrowed scripts, when we're suppressing parts of ourselves. Mnemosyne is the opposite, to drink from the river of remembrance, to go back to your origins, to remember who you are. And Mnemosyne is the Titan goddess of muses. So remembering who you are is your inspiration for how you move through the world, right? It's your fuel. This remembrance of who you are is how you regain energy. because energy comes from alignment, not force. So aligning your behavior, your actions with your values, with your purpose, remembering what kind of person you are when you're regulated so you can get that vitality back. Integration is to remember, right? So like remember, bring all the members back together, bring all the fragments of yourself back together. Because often we forget certain parts of ourself exist because we're so like zoomed in or unfocused. So the opposite of lethargy is not effort, it's recollection. And this is why I actually prefer people who are like, yeah, I'm lost, rather than like, I know exactly where I'm going. Because, I mean, some people do, to be fair, but being lost or being in a state of uncertainty, like life is uncertain, right? And that is fertile. It is fertile for determining a new direction. The important distinction is learning how to ground that, how to interpret being lost, how to take from that and plant your foot and go in a new direction. I guess I should clarify, performing certainty is always defensive. Because there's been times in my life where I'm like, oh, this is like, I'm so aligned with this. If you want to call alignment certainty, then sure. So yeah, darkness is a revelation. And when you descend into the underworld consciously, you're retrieving something for your growth. So the trick is to do it consciously, because when we go in there unconscious, we're just running a program and we get trapped. We stay in our reactive survival mode, right? When you descend into the underworld, be it like an existential crisis per se, and you return with agency, that's beneficial. When you descend in jealousy and you return with reassurance, that's beneficial. When you descend with rage and you ascend with boundaries, that's beneficial. And then there's the river of Styx, which is the river of oaths that the gods swore by. And it's the river of commitments, because when you crossed over it, you gained deep awareness and you cannot unsee. It's kind of like becoming aware of your programs. They will haunt you until you turn and face them. Cocytus means wailing, and it represents unresolved grief or fears that keep us trapped in the underworld, because once we metabolize them, move it through us, it becomes wisdom. A lot of times when we're drinking from the river of Lethe and our mind is in abstraction, it's because our system is fried. And at that moment, you don't need cosmic revelation. You need food, movement, water, sunlight, human contact, because your body is the real river. So Hermes is the messenger of the gods, and he's a boundary crosser. He is a guide of souls, a god of language, thieves, travelers, athletes, probably more. He's also a trickster, and he kind of represents this cognitive flexibility to move between states, to move between emotional states, to move between perspectives, to descend into the underworld, to negotiate. He reminds me of the natural flow of energy without rigid containers. He can like inhabit different states of energy. I tend to become a little bit absolute, sometimes a little bit urgent, or feel like cosmically heavy sometimes with all the spiritual stuff. And Hermes is like that guy that loosens your system and laughs and is like, why are you taking things so seriously? Like, why are you being so rigid right now? And he basically introduces play. So if your identity or fears or whatever else become too fixed, he kind of just like dissolves it. So since Hermes is the god of navigation, he has an awareness of all the layers of reality, and this flexibility, this emotional mobility, and you can't be attached to an identity for that. He also carries the caduceus, which is two snakes representing the harmonic implosion of energy, and then the vice versa. Once it reaches 0 point, it turns into the radiation of our light body. So it kind of represents magnetic and electric, the duality. And his staff is the central axis, or axis that kind of grounds it. It's duality circling around a central axis. So he is the ability to hold a center. He can enter the underworld without becoming it. He can walk or be a god and walk amongst humans. He has this like cognitive permeability, this emotional permeability that it takes to cross boundaries, because it's really movement without collapse. There is conscious boundary crossing and there's unconscious boundary crossing, which is when this is like for my empaths who cross into other people's emotions or anxieties, like collective anxieties. Conscious boundary crossing is different because you enter ideas or thought forms knowing that it's a thought form or an idea, or a shadow knowing that it's a shadow, and you keep your identity intact while changing rules. So the astral, for example, it is not like a collective consciousness like a lot of people think it is. It has like these regions, and they're kind of regioned by beliefs or ideologies. Like a good example would be Democrats and Republicans have their own regions, and it kind of morphs into its own being and encases people's consciousness. So that's why I talk so much about, pattern work, unprogramming, self-sovereignty, like really moving in your truth and your purpose, because you don't want to get morphed into a region. You want to be able to navigate the mental plane freely, the astral plane freely. That also kind of explains a lot about like the elites and what's going on right now. Basically, they have like an impenetrable, like we've been working on it for a while, but this like fortress in the astral. And it has like all these hedges and like firewalls around it, which is basically spell work. It's all these rituals they've done over the year, these secret handshakes to protect secrecy, all these entities they make deals with, and all these sacrifices that they give the entities as payment, all to protect what they've built. But when you do not pay an entity, it comes to you for payment. So that system they have is not really self-sustainable. But yeah, Hermes is great to work with. He's literally like adaptive intelligence in motion. He helps you see a lot of loops and just externalized stuff that we do. So I asked Hermes some questions actually yesterday, and I wrote them down on my iPad, so I'll go ahead and read those to you now. So I asked, what would you say to a generation drowning in algorithmic simulation, identity confusion, spiritual overload, infinite scrolling, and burnout? And he said, you're not lost, you're oversaturated. Lost implies lack of direction. Saturated implies too much input. He said, stop consuming, start translating. People are consuming endlessly without digesting. For every hour you consume, spend an hour translating. Journal one idea in your own words. How does it apply to you? It's about distilling, not accumulating. It's about the movement of information. I kind of took this as information is useless if you don't apply it. It actually becomes like overwhelming. And it made me think of the 3-2-1 method. I forget which book. I think it's like Atomic Habits, where it's like for everything you read or watch, so that you actually like integrate it. It doesn't just like disappear from your brain. Take home 3 quotes, 2 ideas, and 1 question. And it helps so much. But any process you have of just trying to integrate, or just one simple question like, how does this apply to my life, right? It helps so much. Also, if something is not beneficial to you, applying it to your life is not beneficial to you. It does not give you a sense of meaning. It does not, that a sense of meaning that does not inflate your ego. A deeper understanding, a new lens to look at something through, then forget about it. Like, it's just going to create internal conflict. And then this is a great funnel into possession. People have a lot of misconceptions about possession because your coherent self is the one in control. So I actually wrote about this last night. I'm going to read what I wrote. I said, think of identity like clothing you wear, analyst when you need precision, mythic when you want to explore symbolism, athlete when you train, leader when you decide, but at the end of the day, you can take the costume off. If you can't remove the costume, it's not clothing, it's possession. But the thing is, possession is super real. Like, it's your subconscious completely taking control. There's a lot of people who are literally possessed when you look at it that way. So that's a big part of sovereignty, is like, who is directing you? Is it your coherent self or is your subconscious patterning? A lot of people have like, honestly, it's kind of normal to have like a couple attachments. A lot of us reincarnate with them, and they're literally the entities of these programs from past lifetimes, and they were never resolved, so they come with us to this lifetime as well. But it's nothing to be scared of. It's just our own like subconscious patterning. You have the ultimate authority over them, but like the internal battle, like fighting your inner demons, is real. Like, it is a struggle. It is a hard thing to do. It takes a lot of conscious effort. But the first step is awareness. Like say you're alcoholic and you're walking to the store to get some alcohol, and like you just have this revelation, like, what am I doing? Like, I'm just gonna be an alcoholic for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? I'm not this person. But we get attached to the identity of I'm an alcoholic, and we accept that for ourselves, and it's like, no, you are not an alcoholic. You are so much more than that. And you aren't allowing yourself to see it. You are literally letting a sub-personality take over your whole life. So that is kind of what possession is. Have you ever gotten like really angry and you'll think later, like, I can't even believe I said that. That was not me. Or if you've ever gotten really jealous and you're like, wow, that was not me. I can't even believe that. Or like when you've been scrolling for hours and you feel like you've been hijacked. That is possession. It's oftentimes a very old entity or program taking over your executive function, right? A lot of times they're like sub-personalities too. Your coherent self has the ultimate authority, and the coherent self is quiet, right? That's a big distinction I see. Like, there's a lot of people in the spiritual community who are like, I am the chosen one, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, that's like so inflated. Like, I just can't even, like, I think confidence is huge, and I think it's good to be a little bit delusional and imagine whatever life you want for yourself. Like, literally just drop the pin, aim for it, and you go step by step. And usually the pin, like the location we're trying to get to, is not even where we end up. But it's not even about that. It's about having the confidence, believing in yourself, and having a vision and actually taking the steps towards it. A lot of times our road will shift. That's part of life. A big part of life is just learning who you are not, so you can learn who you're supposed to become. But I have a problem with the self-inflative narratives, because if it's a defense mechanism, which oftentimes it really is a defense mechanism, it's a need to be extraordinary, to be important from a sense of insecurity, or in their childhood didn't feel important, that's a problem. It is literally the biggest ego masked in spirituality and coherence. So yeah, coherent identity is quiet. Like, if somebody asks you who you are, you're not going to say the chosen one. I hope not, Coherent identity would more sound like, I'm someone who values depth. I'm someone who loves to learn. It's this internal stability of knowing your values and what you like and what makes you who you are, like what sparks your genius, which is the essence of your being, which is the spirit, right? The inflated grand identity is really the result of fragmentation or trauma that needs healing. They might feel powerful, but the second reality kind of like contradicts the narrative that they're running, the program they're running, the story they're telling themselves. It causes them to collapse where they feel really destabilized and really fragile. I've talked about this before, where if you challenge somebody's identity and they're deeply attached to it, like they're deeply attached to their identity as a victim, they're gonna hate you because you destabilize everything that they are. So it's about this fluidity, this movement, embodying that Hermes flexibility, permeability, energy. And this will help you so much in life. It'll help you if you are on a journey getting to learn the mechanics of deep meditation and astral travel and all that, which I will make a video on that soon. I've actually almost finished my website. I've, finished my client portals and a bunch of tools and just a ton of stuff I want to offer people because I genuinely love doing this stuff, It's just been a little slow to progress because I do work in branding, so I help usually small businesses or creators create a brand for themselves, and I use a lot of spiritual practice in it. They just don't know it, which is like interpreting what their brand is signaling, really like working on their brand identity the same way I work on people's architectural identity. But yeah, anyways, that's all. Have a good night. See you next time, maybe.